How do you know when you're underdressed? You know you're underdressed when you're meeting Thebe Ikalafeng. He is one of South Africa's foremost brand experts. Most recently, he's been working on Brand Ghana. Let's talk about branding countries. Brand Ghana as an example, Thebe. How do you go about branding a country like Ghana?
What defines the brand in Ghana is understanding what motivates the people, what binds the people together, those values to which all of them believe are what makes them who they are, who makes them Ghanaian. And that's how you start. You start by going in the insights, understanding how business feel, understanding how citizens feel, understanding how visitors feel. Those three components help you to define what Ghana stands for.
Okay. People know what it is to be American. Half of Americans speak Spanish. People know what it is to be Scottish. They know what it is to be English. They know what it is to be Australian. They probably know what it is to be Ghanaian. Do we know what it is to be South African?
I think we have an idea of what it means to be South African. We've got a lot of various ways we can look at. We can look at what Mandela stood for. We can look at what, if you will, even what the people who came into South Africa in 1652, what they stood for, because all those help to define what makes us who we are. We're a nation that is very, very diverse, that's got multiple histories, influenced by the Dutch, influenced by the English, influenced by the activists, influenced by blacks, influenced by people from everywhere else. South Africa is a very difficult country to define.
Completely. And you're part of Brand South Africa. You are on the board of SA Tourism. So yes, it is difficult. But how then do you get to the core of what it means to be South African? Because that defines ultimately the brand, surely.
We need to define the vision of where we want to go as a nation. We need to define what it is that binds us together. We need to cut out the diversity of the race, the diversity of the language, the diversity of all those, and go to the core essence of what it is that it means to be South African. What it is, what do we do differently? What do we do distinctive from any other country? What did we do that makes us a nation that's been able to transcend these differences?
So what is Brand South Africa?
Well, Brand South Africa, if you look at how we've defined ourselves right now, we define ourselves as that nation that inspires new ways. We look at how we've been able to, if you look at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, you look at how we've transcended from apartheid to a democracy. You look at sending the second man to the moon. You look at our ability to host the 2010 World Cup. That speaks to a nation that is able to inspire many other nations. That should be a way that inspires how we do business, how we live with each other, how we transcend any difficulty.
The brand is inspired by tragedy?
Well,
inspired by hope, perhaps.
Well, it's inspired by many things. It's inspired by our ability to transcend tragedy. It's inspired by our ability to be hopeful. It's inspired by our ability to be ambitious, to always be striving. It's inspired by our innate sense of Ubuntu, of humanness, of helping other people.
So when it comes to defining that country, that national heritage, that national identity, that's a global perspective, and that's what you go out and you sell globally. But that only works if everybody upon whom that is based buys into it. Do South Africans buy into it?
There's three pillars to any nation brands. First, you must build pride into South Africa. The citizens themselves in South Africa must believe in that idea of South Africa. We're a very young democracy. We're a democracy that's only about to become 21 very soon. A year or two will be 21. So in many ways, we are a democracy that is still evolving, a nation that's evolving. So we're still trying to define and to be able to believe and also to agree on what it is that makes us South African. And only then can people then begin to buy in. I think the biggest job for South Africa is that alignment of the brand, of trying to get everybody on board on the South African message. But South Africa has got so many other challenges that the biggest challenges that we've had are the basics challenges: putting food on the table, getting people on the jobs, and getting people educated. So in many ways, while the identity of a nation is quite important, it has been relegated to secondary to the bread and butter issues. But so you have pride as an important pillar. And only then when you have that can you go out into the world and invite the world to come and do one of two things: to come and invest in your country or to come and visit your country.
Are we succeeding in building Brand South Africa, or are we going through, as we come to the end of 2012, probably the most tumultuous and difficult time of nearly the last 20 years?
Well, if you look at what economists said in 2002 about the continent itself, they said this is the hopeless continent. But by the turn turn of 2010, when we were awarded the opportunity to host the World Cup, they turned around and said, this is the hopeful continent, based primarily on one of two factors. One is that 7 of the world's top 10 fastest growing economies are African, and based on the second fact that South Africa did a magnificent job of hosting the World Cup and showcasing that we are a nation that truly can do amazing things in the world.
That same publication then earlier this year put Cry the Beloved Country on its cover for South Africa.
Because as a very fragile democracy, we have so many challenges. Because part of building a nation brand is also understanding the role that citizens themselves play in helping to build that, leadership plays in defining that nation, and the policies that we make and how they help to define. So we've had challenges. We've had challenges in terms of how we define our policies, how we lead, and how we behave as citizens, whether it's issues about xenophobia. That's us citizens in terms of how we behave, in terms of are we denigrating the idea of South Africa, or are we building on that? We've had issues in terms of whether a leadership says things that perhaps, or how they act in ways that perhaps do not add to the brand South Africa. So the most important thing also about when you're building a nation brand is you must be honest. You have to have an honest reflection. You must look at yourself honestly and saying, am I saying the right things? Am I doing the right things? And am I working hard?
I mean, it's taken America 250 years since the Declaration of Independence to become American. 150 years since the Civil War to be American, to get that cohesive force. How much of it is image and bluster, and how much of it is really tangible and real?
Well, I mean, it's taken them those 300-400 years, and they're still not there yet. So it is quite ambitious to think of us as well, that we can do this in 20 years. So how much of it is real and how much of it is fabricated? Well, building a brand is a mixture of science and as well as magic. So the science of it has to do that. You really have to get to the bottom line issues. You really have to get to those issues, those insights in terms of what it is. But you also have to create the magic. You also have to,
right now, my sense is we need a bit more magic.
We need a bit more magic. We need a bit more hope. We need a bit more pizzazz, because people love to follow leaders who inspire hope. People like to follow people who create excitement about being South African. And I think we're a very fragile democracy, and unfortunately we've had ups and downs. We haven't had a constant trajectory in building this nation. But we have to be hopeful as a nation. We have to be hopeful as citizens that we are moving in the right direction.
We South Africans are very good at pointing fingers at politicians and saying the reason why the brand is damaged is because politicians don't know what they're doing. We're very good as South Africans at not taking responsibility ourselves for branding the country and being the brand of the country. But there's also big business. And you, I think, are the Deputy Chairman of Brand Council of South Africa, which is the business representation. What are you doing wearing that hat to help make a contribution, a positive contribution, to helping build Brand South Africa?
I think from the Brand Council of South Africa, we understand that that brands have got a very, very important role to help in terms of positioning South Africa, or the continent really, as being reputable and competitive as well. One of the things that we want to do is to work very closely with those institutions and organizations which are helping to shape the South African identity outside, because we believe that what we do with corporates, helping to shape the messages that they tell through their businesses, through their brands, in many ways also tells the story of South Africa.
One of the most powerful branding opportunities that we've ever had for the African continent was Thabo Mbeki's I Am an African. And it was set, his speech in Parliament was set to pictures, and he posed for pictures, and it was just one of the most powerful African moments. And we need another Thabo Mbeki, I'm an African moment. We need that kind of leadership to say, this is what I strive for as a leader. This is what we need to strive for as Africans, as South Africans, perhaps.
Well, you spoke about it earlier, that saying what is it that South Africans believe into, and what we were trying to define the African identity, because his biggest legacy was that of the African Renaissance, or really what he was trying to build on was that African Renaissance. We do need another moment like that. We need another moment of a Mandela standing in front there, or Thabo Mbeki, or a Jacob Zuma, with a visionary statement of what it means to be South African.
Yes, we can. Thebe Ikalafeng, thanks very much. He is with Brand South Africa, also with SA Tourism. Recently been helping Brand Ghana, and he's also part of the team that helps Brand South Africa. Good luck to him.